Hello and welcome to the Confusion Wrestling Podcast, the last bastion of independent wrestling. I'm your host, Rob Kammer, and sometimes I talk with the fans. Yes, there's more than one. I talk to the fans, and they're always willing to chat me up about wrestling, and most importantly, sometimes they're more than willing to talk about their favorite wrestlers and give recommendations who should be on the show. And a theme that has popped up over and over again is you need more Koloff. You need more Koloff. You need more Koloff. And it's happened enough that I'm like, dude, what's up with this? So, Ivan Koloff has passed away years ago. I can't can't get Ivan on, and Lord knows that Nikita, is probably out of my price range. And as who's left? Who could they be talking about that I should get on this show to fill the quotient of Koloff? And then it hit me right in front of my eyes. A brilliant specter of masked dominance, Vladimir Koloff. So today we are rectifying the situation of this podcast needing more Koloff and having Vladimir Koloff on to sit down, talk me up, what it was like to go through the wrestling business, talking about some of our favorite people within the business itself that he's even got to work with, and even taking things seriously for a moment and kind of talking about his weight loss journey as well, because the man has sculpted himself into tremendous shape in this day and age. So stay tuned for that. Of course, I don't like interrupting interviews to talk about Blue Chew or whatnot, so we're just going to get this stuff out of the way. So grab yourself a coffee, grab yourself an energy drink. By gosh, even grab yourself a coffee maker, and we'll be back un momento with Vladimir Koloff. Hey, folks. The Confusion Wrestling Podcast has become a veritable hub of shopping and treats and all that sort of good stuff. Whether you need a sugar-free alternative to energy drinks in the form of Raise Energy, or maybe even, top-of-the-line ice makers, coffee machines, and other household appliances, all through my links section. All you got to do is wander down to the descriptor of this week's episode, check out the various links, click on them, and go shopping like you normally would. Heck, it's no difference. You just came in and just said Rob sent you. And that way, you can get the things you need, maybe even at a discount, and the podcast gets a kickback as well. So be sure to check out those links. Thank you very much for listening. Back to the show. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, the Confusion Wrestling Podcast. For quite some time now, people have been telling me that this podcast needs more Koloff. So we're doing it here tonight, baby. Got the big bad Vladdy Daddy himself, Vladimir Koloff. Vladimir, how are you doing today, sir?
I cannot complain. I am here. I'm ready to go on the Confusion Wrestling Podcast. I'm excited, my comrade. How are you?
I can't complain myself. I mean, okay, maybe about the weather. The weather has been crazy, at least up in my neck of the woods, with going from freezing to storms and 80 degrees and kind of back down.
I'm used to the cold.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just old, and I want the temperature to stay the same. Going from 30 to 80 in a couple days is not up to my physical temperament. I am not as hardy of an individual such as yourself, but I really that's the Midwest for you. You blink and the weather changes.
That's it.
But that being said, no one's listening to this podcast to listen to the weather, except for the Drew Montgomery episode, but that was an outlier. But I do enjoy starting off the podcast with the always original, never before asked question. What got you into professional wrestling? What made you a fan of the sport?
Well, my friend, I'll view it this way. I pretty much have loved wrestling my entire life, as long as I can remember, at least. I don't believe there's ever a period of time where I didn't like wrestling. I never grew up wanting to be like a police officer or a firefighter or anything. I just always be a wrestler. I was told that as a baby, my grandmother would put me in the bed with her, and we would watch wrestling. Some of my favorites were like Shawn Michaels, Razor, Brett. I grew up in that era, so that kind of gives you an idea. And yeah, I've just been. To be a pro wrestler is to be insane, I feel like. And so I've had a little bit of crazy my entire life. And from there, just decided that at a young age that I was going to do this, and one way or the other, I was going to do this, and here we are.
I'm going to point out, and I think this is fascinating. As much as I've asked that question, a recurring theme that always like comes up is usually grandma. Like I don't know what
Grandmother, yes.
I don't know what it is about grandmas in professional wrestling. Like that is a theme. Like yes, occasionally we get like dad, but I get a lot more grandma than I do like say dad or any other family member. And I need to like sit down, do the numbers, and like see if I can come up with like a psych study to maybe see what's going on with that. I think that's really fascinating.
Well, I'll tell you this too. I don't think I've ever discussed this on the podcast. My grandmother used to be a hotel clerk, and she would deal with a lot of the wrestlers. She got to even deal with Hogan long before he was famous. And so she got a lot of free tickets to the events and whatnot. And that's how she would get involved with wrestling. And then from there, just like I said, my grandmother, I've always been told, was the biggest factor in me becoming a wrestling fan.
Well, there you got yourself an in right there. That's actually similar. I don't know if you've gotten to. He's closer to your neck of the woods than I am, but Professor Bear.
I've heard of it. Yes.
This is a similar story where his family ran a hotel, except his I think he was still up north. No, he was in Atlanta. I'm mixing up my people who ran hotels stories because I have a couple of them too. Weirdly enough, but not
a lot of hotel clerks and a lot of grandmas getting involved.
The hotel clerks usually are not podcast related outside of Professor Bear, but I do. But as a whole, I always think it's interesting. It's like the grandma thing, and I guess that's always been kind of a trope in wrestling, even going back to Wrestling Secrets Revealed with Stunt Granny. I don't know if you ever saw that thing from the 90s.
Yes, I have. That I can remember as a kid looking that up on YouTube, and I already knew what was up with wrestling by then, but the sheer corniness of like the Stunt Granny and this is how they gig and. Yes, I'm about to go watch that again. Actually,
yeah, it's been forever since I've seen it, but yeah, the funny thing is like I don't remember much else outside of his corny, but like Stunt Granny has always stuck by me. It's just because it was insane to me that like you would hire an old woman to get knocked down, which is something like I had been like a lifelong wrestling fan myself. Like I mean, granted, when this came out, I was maybe 13-ish, but and so a lot of my wrestling was WWF at the time, but like I'd never seen an old woman get shoved to the ground. Like it was at least like 3 years before we had Mae Young and Fabulous Moolah back on the TV screens getting power bombed through tables or whatever.
Which when you think about it, especially for myself getting into pro wrestling and having seen that whenever I was growing up, it's like insane to me that literal 80-year-old women, but granted they were wrestlers, but still even 80-year-old women were being power bombed through tables, and Moolah and May would just take bumps on a weekly basis, and the reality of seniors in general, it's mind boggling to me now. As a kid, I didn't think nothing of it. I guess I just thought grandma could just get power bomb and power drived and it would be no problem. But now it's like insane to me. I think about how my body feels after just a match that I have, and I'm in my 30s.
Yeah, it's one like I didn't think about it as well as at the time. Like I'm just like, oh well, they're wrestlers. Obviously, they're just like built for this. But like in my head, like, and then decades later, as I think about like everything hurts though. Like, and nowadays, like in my real life, I work with the elderly, and like how easily like folks break bones doing next to nothing, and then here's Mae Young going off the turnbuckle through the table. Or actually, she's one of my favorite stories from I believe it's Bob Holly's autobiography, where basically he says like like they were having a match and they were talking about a cutoff. He was trying to protect her, and she just basically said like, "No, you will not hold back on me." like I almost
better lay it in. Lay it in.
Yeah, you will hit me as hard as you can in this match, or after we're done, I'm going to come back and beat you up.
And she meant it. By the sounds of it, she meant it.
And I mean, Bob Holly is nobody like amongst wrestlers is known as a pretty darn tough guy. and he had the fear of Mae Young put into him.
And
But
just it did not matter to her. She would fight him if need be.
yeah,
It's crazy. It's crazy.
yeah, and like so they actually, well, what'd you do? Like, I knocked her out of her boots. Because what else were you gonna do? Yeah,
I have a story for you. Early on, in my wrestling career, probably less than a year in, I got to wrestle Bullet Bob Armstrong.
oh
The
yes,
For those that don't know, the father of Scott Armstrong, the Road Dog Brian Armstrong, Brad Armstrong, just the whole wrestling has more than one royal family. But by the time I wrestled Bob, he was an old man. He was probably in his late 70s, if you will, and I can remember I was not originally scheduled to wrestle him. Someone else was, and it got changed very last minute. They're like, "Okay, you're going to be the one to wrestle Bob." I remember being very nervous, especially because he was an older man, and it did not help that in the locker room I had a lot of people come up. If you hurt Bob, we're going to hurt you. And I could remember not only is he tough as nails, and not only was it a fun, easy match, but his chops at a 70-something-year-old man were like leather amongst the hardest chops I've ever experienced, and that includes a lot of the young guys in the ring. And I do remember him grabbing me and being like, "All right, kid, throw me over the top rope." I'm like, "No, sir," and I just went right back. "No, sir, don't no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that." But he was an experience.
I mean, and speaking of tough guys with that, like to your point, I mean, the whole Bullet original gimmick came because the mask he wore as the Bullet came because
Exactly.
he dropped a weight on his face and broke his face, and like part of the mask was to hide like to cover like the plastic surgery he got to fix his face when he was coming back to the ring, probably too soon. Too soon.
Or like
And
when Taker had his orbital bone broken,
yeah,
and they gave him that Phantom of the Opera style match.
yeah. So like, dude, come back from having his face crushed with, like, I can't remember how big the weight was. A little bit. I mean, it's big enough to crush your face. Not that it takes that much weight to really do that once you get it up high. But like, I
Right.
even think about like even like when they announced that he had cancer and he was choosing not to fight it, citing basically that he'd lived a great life and he was in his 80s. Like, I don't need cancer. Why should I take these resources when, like, who knows, like next year? But like they announced it, they had the announcement and he was like lifting weights like while they announced that he had cancer, that he was not.
Bullet was as tough as nails. He was as tough as nails. Truly, truly.
I mean, like it's just insane to me. Which I mean, you got to be that tough to survive in the business as long as he is. Like, I mean,
Exactly.
because he wasn't a young man when I first like discovered who he was, and that was, oh gosh, that was like 30 years ago because I'm getting old as well. But like seeing his run in like Smoky Mountain, he wasn't a young guy in Smoky Mountain, and that was a forever ago.
Right. Wow.
But
Yeah.
I mean, that's wrestling, and I mean, kind of like tailoring that to guys that are tough as nails that are still like relevant to the scene. I do want to touch base that you got to wrestle relative, well, a little bit more recent years, former NWA World Heavyweight Champion Tim Storm. And I was just curious how,
Yeah.
like, I don't know if I've actually got to talk to anyone who's got to wrestle Tim Storm, but I've heard nothing but like great things about him as a competitor, and just like wanted to pick your brain on that. Like, what was it like being able to get into like kind of getting in the ring with a modern day NWA champion? He held that banner for quite some time before Billy Pumpkins come in and kind of revamped everything.
Tim is a phenomenal wrestler, a phenomenal human being. I've had the chance to wrestle him twice, once in Texas and once in Maryland. Actually, he was brought in. Interesting enough, in Texas and in Maryland was part of the same company, Assault Wrestling Alliance. And both times he was nothing but a class act. Truly, in more ways than one, carries himself as a world champion. I mean, just from how he dresses to how he speaks to you to how he competes in the ring. I mean, and can still even I want cliche to say for his age, but like even for his age, can still do a lot and bring a lot to the table. I believe certainly that he's a valuable still, even so, a valuable asset to the NWA, and he was just a dream to work with.
Yeah, as I said, like I've not heard anything bad about him and how he carries himself and how he's kind of in more ways than one been willing to give back to the wrestling business, even as he's I don't know what we want to call it now, entering a semi-retirement or whatnot. Like he's still very much active, especially in the NWA. But he is kind of working more as a kind of a manager type role now. But hey, is still out there, still giving back the best way he can. But you mentioned Assault Wrestling Alliance, and I did want to touch base on that. We'll just kind of like go all over the place with this,
Absolutely.
Which is the beauty of this podcast. We don't go linear on here. I don't have the attention span for linearness, but doing my cursory research, longest reigning champion and only world champion,
the longest reigning and inaugural Adult Wrestling Alliance heavyweight champion. I have been the champion there for, I think this year will be 5 years in August, since 2021, August 2021. I've defended the title. Obviously, the home promotion is in Maryland. I've defended it in Texas, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, basically anywhere and everywhere that someone wants to step up and challenge Big Vlad for his title. I have done just that. Primarily, of course, in Maryland right now. Their next show is actually going to be Saturday, May 16th at the Assault Asylum in Waldorf. I will be there. And from time to time, my manager of champions, Bill Alfonso, ECW legend, is usually there, right there ringside with me. And we have a great time up there.
What does that mean to you to be holding any championship like for that long, but being basically being the only champion that belt has ever known? That what is that like, especially going into like year 5 of a reign?
I've had the pleasure, really, of a lot of opportunity for this company, and Don, who's the promoter, has treated me with nothing but gold, like nothing but gold. And I've had opportunities to wrestle, whether it's known independent talents across the country, former television company wrestlers. I've had a chance to grow as a performer there, and just being champion there for that long and having that stamp of approval. Because when I first was approached by Donnell, I primarily wrestled in the South at the time, so he was the first one to really like bring me to Maryland. I debuted in Maryland because of him. And then once we had the title, it's just, hey, you can defend it anywhere and everywhere. By all means, go for it. And he takes care of me really well. Again, though, having that stamp of approval, and I've been very fortunate. I put a lot of hard work into what I do. I don't want to sell myself short, but at the same time, I've been very fortunate to have opportunities to really be a flag bearer for lots of companies. But to, again, like you said, almost 5 years as champion, and it is something to me that I don't take lightly. I appreciate it. I try to carry the flag as best as I can, try to be the top performer in the company, try to give every ticket paying fan that shows up to Maryland their money's worth. And especially in this day and age. I mean, I think, gosh, Roman was champion for a long time, but it's really difficult to catch people's attention span for that long. And so to be able to still, from what I can tell at least, entertain these fans for that long as champion is a blessing to me.
Yeah, in this day and age, having a championship for anywhere near that long is almost unheard of. And like, and especially for a championship that's still being defended in its home promotion, like you still see the stragglers like, oh, I've been this champion for 10 years now, and well, that company ceased like 6 years ago. Like it, but like it's one of those like little things that, like, you know, I'm not as familiar with your work in Assault Wrestling Alliance, so I did try to like do my double checks, and I didn't want to be like, oh yeah, this, and then like, no, they're running a show later this month, and like they've been running steadily. Like, so you've been the fighting champion for them for, you know, 5 years now, and like that just blew my mind, especially as the inaugural champion. Like that's something else you really don't see as well as kind of like the
For the hard
inaugural
road.
champion, like being the one to like run out there for over 1,000 days. Like you usually, like in the business, like the first champion is kind of like the big name to put, to put that championship over, to show that the championship's a big deal. And then it kind of, I don't want to make it sound like it gets stuck in a rut, because like obviously the championship is the most important thing in any company, but like it falls into, dare I say, kind of like as from a wrestling perspective, a status quo. Again, I'm not trying to like, I don't want to like sound like I'm burying any world championship, because the world championship is the crown jewel. That's what everyone's striving for. But like, it's a lot of things seem like, oh, it's a big deal, and then like, oh, now it's just another Tuesday for insert wrestling company here. But like in your case, just yeah, being a champion that long and being the first champion, like no one can take that away from you. It's crazy, go nuts.
Exactly. No one can take it away from Big Vlad.
And the way things are going, no one's even going to take the title from you, let alone the accolades. So
exactly, forever champion, forever champion,
forever champion, and defending it everywhere as well. Have you been able to? The answer, if the answer is no, it's fine too. Have you been able to take it outside of the country at all and defend it?
Not yet. We've had almost a few opportunities to do that. We may have one coming soon. Working out the details on that right now. But I will say, if anyone's out there, any promotion, any wrestler, they want to shut in my title, by all means, Big Vlad will travel anywhere and everywhere.
There we go. Especially coming into WrestleMania season, so this is our big networking season as well.
Exactly. Big Vlad will be in Vegas as well, but maybe with the championship in tow.
Oh, see, there we go. I'll have to put in some words, because instead of spending my money on traveling to Vegas or attending WrestleMania, I've just jokingly said I'm going to spend the equivalent of a WrestleMania ticket on sponsoring shows that week. And so we're there's at least 2 that Confusion's. So check out the socials for that. Confusion is sponsoring. Maybe I'll put in a word and we can like hook you up with either Dark Sheik or Second Wrestling, or the 2 big ones that I'm sponsoring at the.
That would be perfect. That would be perfect. Big Vlad, currently, I mean, like I said, I've been doing my due diligence. I've been reaching out to places. I've had people put in orders for me as well. We're trying to make things happen. To be as busy in Vegas as possible. I'll be there from the 16th till late the 19th, and then I'm going to fly back like early Monday morning. So if you're listening in and you need more Koloff, which I think you do, every place needs more Koloff, then by all means, I'm already going to be in Vegas. But let's do some business.
There we go. So you've heard it here. I don't know if it's first, but we're going to call it first.
Right.
Your show needs more Koloff, and
that's right.
WrestleMania week shows running almost 24/7 that week. So there's got to be extra room for Koloff in there somewhere.
Of course, that's what I say.
But speaking of championship accomplishments, I don't want to also fall short of your tag team accomplishments too, primarily as the Pride. You've gotten at least four different tag team championships through them, or as the Pride. Screw up my train of thought or verbiage. Grammar is not my strong suit if we haven't figured that out yet. So you're not only having the singles success, but in the tag team ranks as well. So how did this success kind of come about, and finding a partner that you've kind of, we'll say, just gelled so well with to win titles wherever you've gone?
Well, me and Charles West mainly have gelled so well because once upon a time we wrestled against each other a lot, and we had a lot of great chemistry together as singles performers against each other, and we both were very hungry and driven to make everywhere we were at a better place. And somehow or another, through craziness, we ended up becoming a tag team together. We did win the DCW, the AWA, the Combat Sports Pro, and the Revolt Pro Wrestling Tag Team Championships. Practically had them all at once at one point. Charles is a good brother to me. He just had a daughter recently, along with his wife. Congratulations to them.
Congratulations.
And anytime I have the opportunity to tag with Charles, it's a fun one.
It's one of those like little things as I just going through the record books and seeing like, not only is Vladimir, tearing up the singles ranks with singles titles wherever he goes, he's also decimating the tag team ranks as well. Right. And again, it's not something like you see that much in wrestling is guys that are adept in both areas and having that much success, especially with one partner on that front. Like it seems like a lot of indie guys kind of, I don't know, like partner hop when it comes to their championships, and to have one guy that you're belt collecting with was also just kind of notable to me.
Yes, and like I said, Charles, an amazing tag team partner. Charles West, you can find him on your social medias everywhere. He's a great guy.
And maybe if I do my due diligence, I'll try to throw in a link or two for him too. Why not? Throw him a bone if he's good with Koloff. He's
There
good
you
enough for
go.
me
See,
too. Giving back to the business, getting people more opportunities, getting them booked, or at least letting people know that they exist. And I would be remiss, and you name dropped, and then I just bypassed it and just kept wanting to talk about how great 1,000 Day title reign is. But Manager of Champions Bill Alfonso attached to your hip in the AWA too. Like, what's it like being with Fonzie? Because he is quite the character, like as a ref and as a Manager of Champions.
Well, let me tell you, Fonzie's a great guy, truly a great guy, and in more ways than one. If he's your manager in front of the camera, he's going to manage you behind the camera in different ways. Our interactions have been solely through Assault Wrestling Alliance presently, but when we're together, it's always a good time. It is an honor to have him as my manager. Whenever we get the opportunity to pair up, and he brings a lot of knowledge to the table, a lot of knowledge that I need from time to time. He's able to really help me get on the right path with things. He's recommended me to a couple places as well, and just a really good human being.
He's another one I'm amazed seeing him still running around, especially with the energy he has. Like, he is not slowed
The
down.
energy's real. The energy's real. It's not a gimmick. It's not a character. What you see in front of the camera is what you get. I mean, and he'll daddy you to death too. Like, he's phenomenal.
Like, it's just still blows my mind. The guy, like, I watched in ECW, feeding the chairs for Rob Van Dam and helping Sabu set up tables, plus all the stuff he did with Taz, and he's still out there managing champions, blowing the whistle, as you put it, daddying everybody up. And then also, like, he's willing to take a hit too. Like, he's posted a couple shots recently of him busted open and still out there,
He's taking some hits for me to ensure that I keep my title at the Assault Wrestling Alliance, and has certainly thrown a few chairs and set them up for me as well. And it's crazy to think about, like you said, like he would do it for the Van Dams and the Sabus, and here he is in the ring doing it for me now.
And you put over the wealth of knowledge, because the thing is, like, the referee thing going to ECW was, it was not a character. Like, he was, was a legit referee, and it's like one of those things that blew my mind. Is like, I got older and had access to older wrestling footage. Even it wasn't that much older, really, but I mean, it was older from when I found it to when it was. But seeing Fonzie referee these big matches, especially for the NWA, but he also popped in for various WWF events, and just like
WrestleMania, he refereed at WrestleMania.
Yeah, like, the man's been everywhere, and that was before we knew what a Bill Alfonso even was, before he turned into the whistleblowing ECW stickler for the rules, and now hardcore manager of the champions. Like, it's like insane to me that he's still going, but like he's had such a varied career on top of the other accolades we can give him, is just because he's just had such a kind of random career trajectory that we don't see terribly often even in the wacky world of professional wrestling.
And I'd say too, I mean, I have no stroke with the WWE, but a Hall of Fame season being around, I mean, they need to throw him in the Hall of Fame.
I have a list of people that should go.
So true. Yeah. Not the only one. I'm a little biased, but I would put him up there.
Of course. But again, like, well, and this is getting off topic, but I mean, the Hall of WWE's Hall of Fame has been like woefully neglectful of their referees, and there's been several well-known referees that have come through their doors in various forms. I mean, we could like remember that, like, say, like the Hebners, like, yeah, their stint didn't end well over there, but like still, like, they were valued, like WWE employees, WWE employees, for decades. And like even some of like the current crop too, like looking at like Charles Robinson, who's been done. I mean, I know he's not retired yet, and he's still running around like a madman too. But like,
He deserves his flowers though, just
yeah,
the same.
yeah, like he's such a fixture. Like get him his flowers before he can't, because there's Lord knows there's so many cases of folks that you know have been waiting for that Hall of Fame that were deserving of it, and then not going to get it until usually like it seems like a year or two after they pass. Like looking at
Well,
you,
that's like they just announced Sid Vicious for the legacy wing of the Hall of Fame, and I mean he just passed away not too long ago, and could have certainly been inducted while he was alive.
Yeah, I always think of like Vader, who like was active, like
Yeah.
actively going like, "Hey, the doctor says I don't have long to live," like,
and really wanted to be in the Hall of Fame. Right?
Yeah,
really aspired for that, and unfortunately, fortunately it did happen, but unfortunately, it was after he passed.
yeah. I mean, better late than never. But for someone, especially in his case, that someone who wanted that accolade while he was, while he was still with us, rather than just being like, "Oh, my legacy is secured. It's fine, whatever." But like man, that sucks. But everybody has their opinions on the Hall of Fame, who should be in, who should not be in, and the timing of which folks should be in as well. And like Lord knows, like that could be a whole podcast in and of itself, because
100%.
But tailing back to Fonzie, like yeah, Fonzie should be in there, and like also throw like there is a woeful, like for them now being in the WWE umbrella, woefully underrepresented chunk of ECW in that Hall of Fame. But
so true.
That's this is just one lone podcaster's neck bearded up opinion, but but as I say, I got a neck beard, I got a microphone, and an opinion, so obviously I need to shout it out to the cosmos and make sure everybody is aware of it, all 3 people that listen to this here podcast.
There you go. Well, I'll make number 4.
There we go. I mean, you're part of this one, so therefore you've bolstered my opinions.
Right. That's right.
They may have been bad opinions before, but now if you're going to echo them, they're good opinions now. That's how I'm
there you go. See, smart man.
I know when to latch onto coattails. But yeah, taking a further left turn off of this, I do want to. We'll call it get serious for a moment, but it doesn't have to be serious. It's how you want to tell the story. But I did see specifically on Instagram earlier in the year, you posted your fitness journey, or but we'll call it before and after photos of your fitness journey. And I think like these things, especially in the realm of sports, is kind of an inspiring thing to see people go from, we'll call it one body type, and putting in the work, and I don't want to say necessarily getting into shape, but putting in the work and changing their figure entirely. Like, what was the impetus for you to kind of begin this fitness journey besides just wrestling?
So I'll tell you that yes, wrestling was the biggest motivator, obviously, and probably just having the goals that I've set for myself from professional wrestling. I mean, obviously, I want a contract one day. I want to travel the world. I want this to be the living that I aspire for it to be. So it probably drove me mentally in the forefront in terms of why to do it, but obviously subconsciously and just right there in your face every day. I have 2 daughters. I have 2 little girls, and I want to see them grow old. I want to see them get married. I want to see them have children. I want to see them have successful careers of their own. I want to see them do better than I ever could in my life. And that was obviously a huge, like the number one motivator, along with wrestling. And I started my journey. I've always been up and down in weight in my life. I started as a child. I was severely underweight, and then I became overweight. And at my heaviest, I stepped on the scale at 361 pounds, which is not good. On top of that, I began to have health problems. Obviously, blood pressure became a thing. I was never diabetic or anything like that. It never got that bad. And functionally in the ring, I was just joking the other day with some people, and I was telling them that fat Vlad could still smoke the same people that regular Vlad could smoke now. Like I was able to move around the ring just fine. The biggest difference, obviously, was just that my tank would run out. I would be spent by the time the match was over with. I could have a 30-minute match with someone, but it was a different style, it was a different pace of things, and then I was completely worn thin by the end of it. Whereas now, obviously, pro wrestling is very taxing to your body and to your cardiovascular, but I'm more prepared for that now. So between my children and really wanting to make the most out of pro wrestling, I made the choice to do what I needed to do, and it was not overnight. It was not overnight by any means. It's about a 6 or 7 year process. Honestly, I lost a huge chunk of weight, and then I would sit there and kind of be at the same weight and go along for a while. Then I would lose another big chunk of weight. I had some motivating factors that really helped. I would say a couple of years ago, I found out that I was going to be in a fatal 4-way 60-minute Ironman match, and that's an hour long. Regardless of how many competitors are in, you're in there for an hour. And I was given about 2 or 3 months to prepare for it. I already had lost quite a bit of weight by that point, but it motivated me to like really hit it hard, diet hard, um, exercise hard, get into the best shape possible to not just go out there and stink up the joint for 60 minutes. And I'm very proud of that match. It's probably my favorite match I've ever had, along with Braxton Hunter, Wes Warren, Jordan Jaws for Pro Wrestling 225. It's up on YouTube if you ever want to watch it. Probably my favorite match of all time. Um, but motivating factors like that, having opportunities in the forefront to wrestle some of the very best in the world, certainly helps. Um, and I'm very driven for this. I really want this. I would say I need this in a lot of ways, and so it's getting past your stubbornness, because I had a stubborn mindset for the longest time of my size didn't matter, and people should accept me for my work, and that is true. I don't believe that you should necessarily look at a bigger person and go, oh, they can't wrestle or they're not entertaining. I believe I was entertaining then, but at the same time, there are people that are going to look at you a certain way and view you as not as serious if you're not putting in the work. And even if that means you're still a bigger person, just you can still put the work in as a bigger person. And that's what I've done for a long time. And for me, it was setting a goal out for myself and just doing everything I can to achieve it. And I'm a bit stubborn, so I probably have a bit of tunnel vision that other people may not have to really hit that goal, and I'll do whatever I can to see it through. Um, but having spending several years over really figuring out the knowledge of like how to properly diet, how to properly exercise, what works for me. I tell people all the time. Everyone asks me, "How did you do it?" It's just honestly, I can tell you what I did for me, which was high proteins, lower end of the carbs, drink a gallon of water a day, eat clean foods, obviously, work out. Um, but what the step by steps that work for me may not work for you. Everyone's different. So it was really finding what worked for me and go from there. And I make mistakes every single day. In terms of that, and it's forever, just like with pro wrestling, it's forever a learning process, and I'm going to continue to learn. I'm going to continue to do the things I need to do to better my fitness journey, to look better, to feel better. Balance that out with pro wrestling and being a father, and yeah, I mean, just do everything I can to hit those goals. I feel very proud of what I've done so far, but I'm not content with what I've done so far. So it's a forward motion process.
And the transformation I thought was staggering, seeing the photos from 11 years ago to now. And as you put it, it was a process. And I think like the entire package is tightened. We'll call it tightened up, because like I've even noticed, like comparatively speaking, like the gear has gotten so much better. And I don't know if that's just a willing investment, or you could just finally going like, okay, I can do this. I need to look, you know, better, and it not just my physical shape, but my attire as well. Because for better or for worse, wrestling is an aesthetic business, and I think
And I'll tell you too, the gear maker has never changed. It's the same gear maker from the beginning. It's just again with that person, learning and taking the steps by steps and working against the mistakes and learning from the mistakes and going forth to improve their work. And I mean, by all means, phenomenal job.
no. Every person is built and shaped differently, and so finding a specific look that works for you
That's true.
is its own art form. Because Lord knows, like, okay, not that I'm a bastion of fashion. Like, those of you can't see me, I'm just wearing a maroon button-up shirt that I have unbuttoned with a t-shirt underneath of it. But like, we like what would look good on me could definitely not look good on someone. I couldn't just give this to someone on the street and go like, you're going to look great because I look good in this. Not that I look good in this, or or vice versa. Like, everyone's kind of got the whole package of what things work. And that's a whole like industry on, at least on YouTube now, is tutorials about dressing to match your skin tone to your specific body shape, etc., etc., etc.
Crazy world we live in.
It is both wonderful and aggravating having this much information at your fingertips, which for someone like me who's now like he spends his time like digging through Wikipedia and Cage Match and who knows how, Lord only knows how many hours of YouTube I either indirectly or directly scroll through a day, and that's just for the podcast. Like, that's not even talking about watching wrestling for fun, though I guess there's some overlaps between the podcast and watching wrestling for fun as well. But
right,
that's a whole nother can of worms right there, because Lord knows I watch, if there is such a thing of watching way too much wrestling, I watch way too much wrestling. I don't watch way too much wrestling though, because that's the son of a good addict.
As much as you may watch, there's so much more out there, I can assure you.
Oh, there is, and it's wonderful, and that's something, like, for me, like, as a fan, it's wonderful to know that there's something else out there, and that it hopefully, and for the most part, is accessible at my fingertips. Like, whatever you want nowadays, if you're that you're into, you can find through one of the various streaming services. Like, there's so many crazy things out there that I can put over, like, well, I put over my sponsorships for WrestleMania, because I'm very curious to see what Dark Sheik's doing with her worst wrestling show of the week thing going on. But like, I've recently put over like Power Pro Lucha Libre, who is doing kind of a spiritual successor in probably the most true sense of like Chikara. But like, there's crazy, like, Marion Fontaine's running around with his old wrestling from the 1920s. Which is also amazing, and we got countless promotions running like our Memphis, the old Memphis style down south. You got the ECW, offshoots still going.
And pro wrestling is not linear by any means. No. Like if you watch American football, there's one way to play football. There's one way to play baseball. There's one way to play hockey. And pro wrestling is like, there's so many different flavors that if you don't like, let's just like make it simple and talk about the two big companies. If you don't like the style of WWE, there's AEW, and vice versa. And so, like, there's so many different flavors. If you have a specific taste, almost guaranteed you could find it.
And that's one of the things, like, I really love about professional wrestling is that, yes, it is very much a sport, but it is even more so an art, just because, as you said, there's really like there isn't just one way to wrestle professionally, and then you have the mixture of styles. Styles make fights is the old adage. And so, like, we could say the NFL is kind of monotone, like, you really only going to play football in that one way. But like wrestling, you can have a luchador take on your old school Memphis bad guy if one promoter is willing to throw them all together. There are many companies where, like, I go like, you could tell these are like some of these are just nerds that played the fantasy booking simulators from like the mid 2000s
Oh
because
man,
these are things that the matches that I would set up when I was playing Extreme Warfare Revenge or Total Extreme Warfare, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
that's the thing too. Like even just as an independent wrestler, like you essentially every time you're booked, you're playing in someone else's sandbox. So I've wrestled for promotions that are very faith based and have a certain guideline, and you adhere to it, and it's perfectly fine. I might wrestle the next night at a promotion that's in a bar and crowded and completely adult and unhinged, and that's just as fun. And like there is just so much pro wrestling and so much good pro wrestling, and it's just a matter of what's your specific taste.
Yeah, I recently saw someone say online that like they felt like it was their opinion that the independent scene didn't have like tippy top people like anymore. And my response to it was just like, well, that's because there's so much more wrestling in general. It's such a like back in the day, like there you had like you had WWE. More recently we got AEW coming in, but like really like the strong independent scene was only like people wrestling in about 5 or 6 large promotions. So like in Ring of Honor, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, like Combat Zone got pretty darn big for a bit. Like if you wanted to watch wrestling, like see who was top in the indies, like you went to those places. There
And
really
social
is,
media is so prevalent now. Social media is so
yeah,
prevalent. Like and many promotions. When I broke into wrestling, my first match was in 2014, and I was in that transitional period where you still had like Ring of Honor was still very very huge, like Pro Wrestling Guerrilla and Combat Zone, everything you just mentioned, and everything else was still kind of like in its infancy in terms of like social media engagement, and it was just black curtain, speakers, a ring, and that was it. And now people have upped their production. People care about their production. People care about how their set design looks, and reels and stories and Facebook engagement, Instagram, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, like YouTube engagements. Like that's very important to not just promotions, but more so the wrestlers. I mean, Cardona just mentioned in the podcast with Cody Rhodes, two of the biggest independent names right now, probably Richard Holiday, who's a gem. I've been on shows with
oh
him. He's an absolute gem. The fact that he's not signed is mind-boggling to me. Big Ben Bishop, and the two things they have in common is their social media engagement. Jack Vaughn, with the thigh slap and everything,
yeah.
like his social media engagements was getting him booked. Fuego del Sol, who's now KJ Orso, ripped the mask off and it's huge on social media and is getting booked everywhere and being taken as serious as he deserves to be. And there's so many more, but like that is a thing now. Whereas then, you know, wrestling was a little behind for the most part, other than the few exceptions.
Right. Well, and that's something like you bring up how important social media is. I mean, especially I mean, it's important for anyone who's creating some sort of content there. Dare I call wrestling content, but like, but again, we touched on off air about, the importance of networking or, and like, right now like social media is the best way to get like new eyes on you, besides if you can't like be physically somewhere to shake someone's hand. Like the next best thing is to have at least competent social media presence,
So,
and that's something like I'll say, like as a podcaster, as someone who like pulling back the curtain at my end, like there's so many people like I come on and like we make our pleasantries and we talk like, oh, where they find out like that I'm from the Midwest, and I'm over, I could go throw a rock at Seth Rollins if he comes home like that. That's my neck of the woods in the world. And then they're like, I have never wrestled in the state of Illinois nor the state of Iowa. How do you know who I am? And like, well, you did something cool on social media. Like you had some crazy Instagram posts that somehow fell into my feed, either because you went semi-viral or because this wrestler who I thoroughly enjoy, basically played telephone, like reposted your content. and like, so you fell into my radar somehow. Like, I one.
Here's one for you. Just the other day, this is a great example of what you just said. I look at my Instagram, and I originally scrolled past it, didn't even think nothing of it, but I had to double take, and I had a reel from my match with Steve Anthony from Pro Wrestling 225. And if you don't know who Steve is phenomenal, like absolutely phenomenal. And that match was like one of my favorites that I've had. But Tiger Mask from New Japan liked my reel,
Huh.
and he liked it because like Steve was a collaborator, and like they've been on, like they follow each other on Instagram. Like Steve has done work with New Japan, former NWA junior heavyweight champion. So like that's the connection there. But Tiger Mask liked my reel that I posted on Instagram, just out of the blue, and that's exactly the thing about networking, as you just said. Like you never know what you might get out of it.
Yeah, I like, and the world is insane. Like, I have plugged to this podcast so many times. Like, and I don't know if you're familiar with it, but the Mighty Maccabee slid into my DMs like one
Oh
evening,
yes,
and like I was like a 5-year-old, like, just like, it was Christmas morning and I got what I wanted, like the number one thing on my Christmas list. And like, I was just like shaking and giddy because the Mighty Maccabee, like I talked about Maccabee Mania #3, and I don't know, and somehow this podcast came across his desk that day, and he just
right.
wanted to let me know that he appreciated me covering Maccabee Mania, and thereby putting the product out there, since it was technically, a charity event. And I'm just sitting there going like, the Mighty Maccabees in my DMs. It's
And
like,
it's the power of social media. It's the
yeah,
power of talking and promoting, and you never know. You never know who's, and this is something for independent wrestlers to remember too. You never know who's listening. You never know who's watching. You never know what impact a positive or negative post might have.
yeah, like, and the world, like, as big as the world is and as much stuff is out there, like, the world is indirectly getting smaller because we have access to whatever people are, putting out there, good, bad, indifferent. And especially, again, we're putting this over as a tool for wrestlers to further promote their careers. Like, being competent in social media and is just as important as having good backstage etiquette in this day and age.
Exactly, and if anything, yes, you want inside the ropes. You want to be competent. You want to be competent. You want to know what you're doing. You want to be safe, most importantly. But as important as being a good wrestler is, it is so much more important to have social media presence, to be able to talk and promote your event, to be able to interact with fans and leave a great impression on them. Everything you do outside of the ropes is probably more important, I would say, than what you do in the ropes. And I've had promoters book me on events simply because I will cut the promo, simply because I will set my camera up. This is Vladimir Koloff, and this show needs more Koloff, and plug a 1-minute promo without them having to ask. And that should not set me apart, but somehow has set me apart from so many others because their social media game is very weak. And mine's not the strongest. Like there are wrestlers out there that have phenomenal social media range, but it's just like in comparison, just taking a little bit of time and recording a video sets me that far apart from a good majority of independent wrestlers, which is insane.
I mean, and then especially in this case, like, you're also showing yourself to be useful for the promoter. And if you're useful for the promoter, besides being in the ring, that's going to make that good impression on the
You
promoter. Like,
have
this
to
guy's,
serve them first. You have to serve them first, and that's the biggest thing. If you can serve that promotion, then you're useful to that promotion.
yeah. And again, like, I've had August Artois on, and yeah, he had a whole tirade about this where, like, he admits he goes above and beyond with his promos, but he's just like, it's amazing to him that someone just can't pull out their phone and just be like, hey, I'm the biggest dickbag Florida's ever seen and I'm coming into your home in Tallahassee, Florida on December 16th for Diamond Championship Wrestling. Any other words that I'm bumbling because I'm just making this up on the top of my head. But just the fact that he did, as you put it, like a 1 minute, doing at least a 1 minute video, saying who you are, where you're going to be, and what you're going to do to your opponents. Like, that is becoming like a gold standard, like, for anyone. And as he puts it, it's also a way to make sure people know who you are, so they're ready for you when you show up. In addition to like showing how useful you are for that promoter, you could put a butt or two in the seats just because, like, hey, that guy's a jerk and I want to see him get his butt whipped. Now I'm going to the show because it's a half hour from home.
Exactly.
But speaking of the social media game, and to be respectful of your time, almost a good segue into that, though. Here's a good opportunity for you to plug your social media and where we can find you online and in person, and the next couple of weeks or however long you have that calendar in your head ready to go.
So here we go. See, first and foremost, I believe that if you're watching, if you're listening, however platform you're approaching this right now, I believe that you, my friend, need more Koloff. And this is exactly where you can get more Koloff. First of all, on Facebook, at Needs More Koloff. On Instagram, at Needs More Koloff. On TikTok, at Needs More Koloff. On X, which admittedly I need to do more of. I'm slack on X, but at Needs More Koloff. You can find me on YouTube, Vladimir Koloff, Needs More Koloff. Then, on top of all that, first of all, this Friday night, Vladimir Koloff is returning to New South Pro Wrestling in Montgomery, Alabama. Then the next night, I'll be at the Guardians Legacy in Panama City Beach, Florida. Then next week, I'll be in the Kill, Mississippi for the Gulf Coast Wrestling, entering the Mississippi Rumble. Then I will be in Las Vegas for WrestleMania week. Vladimir Koloff is presently looking for opportunities to serve your company and to bring more Koloff to your company in Las Vegas that very week. And I'll be there from the 16th, technically the 15th. I land very late, but the 16th until the 19th. So on those days, you have the opportunity, the very rare opportunity, to have more Koloff on your event. And then following that, I will have some event in Florida on the 24th for Combat Sports Pro. I will be wrestling in Opelousas, Louisiana for Gulf State Wrestling the very next day. And then I've got some fair events coming up in Alabama in the middle of the week after that. Then I'm making my debut in Wisconsin coming up for Frozen Tons of Wrestling. More information provided on my Facebook. And then I'll put a bow on it here because I could talk about it all if I wanted to. But 225 Mania in Albany, Louisiana. Vladimir Koloff will be there, be present, and ready to give a cannonball to whoever needs more Koloff. And promoters, I know you can hear me right now. All that social media game I just spit, you can reach out there in DMs or email me at koloffbookings@gmail.com and get me on your event. And most importantly, if you cannot make an event, but you want to pick up some big Vlad swag, then by all means, I have a Pro Wrestling Tees, prowrestlingtees.com/needs more Koloff. Why? Because you need more Koloff.
There we go. Those are the places going to be where you can find them online. And if I'm doing my due diligence as a podcast host, I will have links to a batch of those things in the descriptor below. But links aren't always working on those things. So just be sure to go listen to the man, because you need more Koloff in your life too.
Right.
Vladimir, thank you for coming on the show. It was a blast to talk about the twists and turns and everything in between. Really appreciate you coming on and taking the time to talk to me.
The pleasure was all mine, my friend. Thank you so much for having me on here.
The Confusion Wrestling Podcast is a weekly podcast that is written and performed by Rob Kammer and hosted by Spotify for podcasters. The background music for this section is Ruined by Day, performed by Alan Schroeder. If you enjoyed this podcast and would like to help support, please like, subscribe, and tell your friends, family, and enemies. Leaving a review is helpful as well, because word-of-mouth advertisement is very important for us small podcasts. My social media links can be found in the description, but Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky are at The Nova of Cass. That's TheNovaOfCass, and Facebook is MLW Confusion, all one word. If you'd like to support monetarily and help upgrade my equipment, please check out my virtual tip jar at ko-fi.com/Casanova, or if you prefer more bang for your buck, go to patreon.com/Casanova, that's CASSONOVA, where for as little as $2, backers get access to the podcast early and without those pesky ads, plus other exclusive content. So join the crew that is headed up by Keith Wynn, Alan Schroeder, Chris Zach, and Elenia, and check it out. You can also find t-shirts, coffee mugs, and other merch at the Confusion Podcast store on Teespring. Also, be sure to check out the affiliate links in the description below. For business inquiries such as ads, sponsorships, and etc., please email rzkamer, Kamer, at comcast.net. Thank you all for listening.